Hi, everyone. Gunner here to quickly say thank you for the continued support you guys are giving me and have been throughout this journey and whatnot. But if you haven't supported yet, please go subscribe to the channel. That will benefit you as you'll get notifications and it benefit myself as well. Uh, but I hope you guys enjoy the Transfer Portal series. Here we go. Welcome everyone to another video of News from the Stands. Your host is here, G-Man G Blazin. And what we got here, guys, is a new series. So as you probably can see, we're going to be doing a transfer portal series. So to kind of give you some history and whatnot and how we've come together, right? So we looked at the top 25 rankings from 247 and 1. And basically we made sure that whatever team is on 247, we're seeing their ranking on the 1, even if it's outside the 25, and vice versa, right? If someone's in the top 25 for 1, what their ranking is, even if it's outside of the top 25. Okay, and so yeah, we compiled about 36 teams, guys. Out of those, I guess you could say 50ish, right, teams. And we've come up with a kind of a rating and a ranking on who are the best teams portal wise based on their how they do their ranking and all that, and then basically diving into these teams, these players, trying to understand potentially why maybe 247 is higher than 1 or vice versa, and just give my thoughts on certain players in these classes, guys. So we are going to start off here with Ole Miss, as you can see. So what's going to happen is, apologies, went too ahead. Is again, we're going to talk about certain players in the class, and I know I'm getting a little ahead. As you can see, we're about to talk about one Trey Amos, but real quick, Ole Miss, they're pretty much a top 3 class on both sides of the fence. 247's got them at 1, and 1 has them at 3. So they brought in about 17 kids. Definitely was from how I'm seeing things. Definitely was a focus on the trenches, especially on the offensive side. They brought in 4 O linemen, 3 of them being interior linemen, but they're probably tweeners, if you want to call them that. 2 stud wide receivers, which we'll talk about one, and great defensive positions and spots. Don't want to get ahead of myself, but I definitely think this is a class that is deserved to be, a top 30 class. So, guys, we're going to start with the first one. As I mentioned, Trey Amos. So this kid is coming from Alabama, going to Ole Miss. Talented kid, was recruited and coached up by Saban, obviously. His career, though, in the college has been up and down, in my opinion, so far as a kid. He had a PFF grade, though, of 76.9. So this kid could definitely play. He was graded very well, in my opinion. And I think this is a big plus for Ole Miss, as their defense has always been the issue the last couple years. So if Lane Kiffin can get that defense going with some of these players that we're going to bring up and talk about, they have a good chance. Good chance. Next one up, guys, we're going to talk about is Logan Diggs. So he comes from LSU. He's a running back, and he replaces probably the big piece in their offense last year, Judkins. So Judkins goes to Ohio State, which we'll talk about more, on the Ohio State episode. But this guy's a solid rotational running back. Lane Kiffin likes to use multiple running backs anyway, and that could be maybe why. I don't really know the real reasons on why Judkins left, but I think when looking at Diggs' film and his stats and all that, he hasn't fumbled the ball over 300 carries. So this guy's very reliable. They're going to not worry about him as much. He's going to be able to do the right things at the right time and essentially hold on to that ball, which is probably the biggest key for a running back. Next one, Yam Banks. So Yam Banks comes from South Alabama, obviously an FCS school or Group of Five, whatever you want to call them. I think this is a solid safety. No matter if you played at South Alabama or not. And one season, which was in 2022, he had 6 interceptions, which is pretty crazy as a safety. So he's definitely got the ball skills to get that ball and turn the ball over. So yeah, big plus for the defensive side and that secondary. I think that was probably their biggest weakness last year, just in general. DBs, safeties, all that. So definitely good to get some experience, right? Banks, Trey. These are just a couple of them of the entire class that's going to be able to ball out for them. Next one, Princely Umanmielen. Most likely saying that wrong. Apologies, man, Mr. Princely. We got an edge player here from Florida. He's going to Ole Miss. This guy was pretty much a lot of teams were looking into him. It's actually a player that USC was looking into a little bit. 15 career sacks. So he's definitely a veteran of the game. He knows how to sack the QB, and I think that's, again, another piece what Ole Miss has been missing is getting to the quarterback, guarding the wide receivers and defending them and playing sound defense. So another big piece for Ole Miss, in my opinion. Next one is Antwane Wells from South Carolina. He had 28 career touchdowns. He played about 3 games this past season, but he got hurt for the rest of the season and just kind of didn't want to continue. I think it was very serious. I know he carted off at one point. I mean, this guy's a stud. It's a huge get for Ole Miss in that offense. They have Jackson Dart back. Obviously, they lose Judkins, but getting a Diggs, getting a Wells, having Jackson Dart and the rest of the current core there, I mean, this offense could be special. So shout out to Lane and his staff to get this guy on campus for Ole Miss. Next one, guys, we have about 3 more after this. 2 more after this, if you don't include this one. Apologies. But this one's a big piece as well. Chris Paul Jr. No relation to Chris Paul, the basketball player. He comes from Arkansas. He had 130 tackles over the last 2 years. So has a nose for the ball, very athletic, and I think he's an instant impact player, as pretty much majority of these players that we've talked about are going to be, in my opinion. From Georgia, so understands the game of football well, comes from obviously Arkansas, which is an SEC school, is going to stay in the SEC, so he's very familiar with the landscape. Next one is pretty much the kind of the big number one guy out there that everyone really wanted, right? Walter Nolen from A&M goes to Ole Miss. Huge. I mean, this is obviously probably their number one get in this class, even though I spoke highly about a few of these players already. Again, like I mentioned, everyone wanted Walter Nolen. It was coming down to Ole Miss and Oregon. The SC fan, I'm glad he did not choose Oregon. But what's crazy, he still hasn't touched the ceiling. He has a lot of potential left, and I think with the DC that they have at Ole Miss, I think he'd be able to get his potential reach, basically, and get that ceiling touch. So very excited for Walter Nolan, see what he does in this Ole Miss defense and just this defense in general. I think that they're going to have a huge step up for what they're looking to do. They're trying to, make the playoffs and make a run. And then lastly, guys, I wanted to just quickly shout out Daquan Wright. From Virginia Tech, he's young in terms of playing, but solid tight end, especially to replace Michael Trigg. Trigg was in and out in the rotation anyway. They have another stud tight end, which I can't think of his name, so apologies on that. But this guy's going to be able to go in the rotation, will be able to carve a nice role. 6'4", 250. He's going to be able to fit nicely. And again, another Georgia kid where, there's a lot of talent there. So, guys, that will pretty much kind of conclude Ole Miss's recruiting class. Again, just based on these players that we highlighted and talked about, I am leaning towards the 247. 247 has the number one class. I do think this is probably one of the best classes out there. It has a lot of impact players, in my opinion. And very excited to see what, Lane and the staff can do with these players. They're definitely making the strides and improving that roster very quickly to be able to compete in the SEC, right? You have no Saban now, right? Georgia is probably the top dog, right? Who else is there? You got Texas and Oklahoma coming over, right? Texas is now kind of probably maybe the top two team. So for Ole Miss to get these players and keep Jackson Dart, which is probably the most important position, the QB, it's a huge plus for them going into the 2024 season. So a lot at stake for Ole Miss, a lot of pressure. But, I mean, this is what you want and expect just in general, to be the best and to win the big thing. So we're going to take a short break here, guys, and then we're going to get into our next. Okay. Part 2 of episode 1 of Transfer Portal Series is Colorado. So we're going to be talking about Colorado and discussing about their portal class. So quickly before we go in certain players, they brought in 24 players. Definitely for pretty much all positions, they brought in 4 wide receivers, 2 quarterbacks, touched up the trenches, 5 total O linemen, 6 D linemen, 2 edges, a couple safeties, a corner, linebacker. So they definitely hit all the spots. 247 has them the 5th best, and 1 has them as a top 2 transfer class. And we're gonna go over each of these players and give my thoughts, and then kind of go from there and see which way I lean. So first one, guys, is Preston Hodge. So Preston Hodge is a safety coming from Liberty. Very solid DB. Played nickel as well as in Liberty. He had a very good pass coverage grade. A couple interceptions, pass deflections. He had a 90 PFF grade. So I mean that is outrageous. So he definitely played very, very good ball, and he'll be able to fit in this defense fairly nicely, in my opinion. Next one we got is a Quincy Wiggins, D lineman from LSU. Young, has potential, but the one thing I'll say is he's barely saw the field, and that could be just a product of LSU's and the players they had in that D line room. As you can see, as a prospect, he was a top 50 national player. Still is a top 50 portal player, basically. So I'm definitely interested to see, maybe the reason why he hasn't seen the field so far. Could be scheme, understanding the playbook, could be grades, could be anything. Uh, Behavioral issues, whatever the case may be. So I mean that's the big piece and question mark for me, honestly, so far going through these classes, and these players. But he's got the potential. So if Colorado can, get that potential going and keep it, um, just make sure he's not, doing the wrong things, he'll be a solid player. Next one we got is Tyler Johnson. Comes from Houston, interior lineman. He can maybe play tackle as well, but basically this is probably their best O-line that's coming in this class, compared to the others. So I mean, he was a top 100 prospect player. He's from Texas, stayed home, and he's still a top 120 player overall. So this is somebody that SC was kind of interested in, even before last year's portal. So this is somebody that was kind of in the portal the last 2 years. He stayed at Houston, then is now back in the portal, basically. Another guy for them is BJ Green from ASU, D lineman / edge player. This guy's instant impact player for them. Somebody who's going to step in that room, given that they really had no one and play right away. Georgia kid, has 13 and a half career sacks, so definitely a huge get for Colorado, in my opinion. Next one, Samuel Okunyalola. Again, saying that last name wrong, most likely, so apologies there. Another D lineman, edge as well, kind of. 3 years left. Very young player, freshman. I think it was a redshirt freshman. 5 sacks his freshman year is pretty much his 1 year that he played. Massachusetts kid, so that's pretty cool to see. Big loss for Pittsburgh, in my opinion, but a good get for Colorado. Somebody that SC was kind of involved as well. Was a bit of a shock, in my opinion. Will Shepard. So Will Shepard is about 1 year left. I would say grade transfer, you want to call it that. Big body receiver, 21 career TDs. Somebody that I was looking into from Louisiana for SC because just our room right now. But he chose Colorado. I think this is somebody that's going to be impact player, especially on the offensive side with Shedeur Sanders and having Travis Hunter, and also wow, I see his name and everything in front of me, but the kid from South Florida that transferred to Colorado last year, he was a dog last year. And then lastly, guys, could be the theme of today's episode is kind of having the tight ends last. Shimon Meditire. Yeah, I'm saying that last name around as well. But, I mean, the kid comes from Cincy, 6'5", 248, Florida kid. Good body. He could probably, can probably play off the line a little bit as well. Young tight end. He'll be able to get in that rotation fairly quickly. I think pretty much all these players are impact players, and I think that just shows the roster that they had, right? Even with the Quincy Wiggins, pretty sure I would assume he's going to be able to see the field compared to LSU, right? I mean, there's not going to be much people that are going to be competing with him, a lot. So this is a solid class. Couple players that I wish were in different uniforms, but that's the game of recruiting. So again, 247 has them at 5. 1 has them at 2. I'm probably gonna lean. Definitely, I think Ole Miss's class is better than Colorado's class. More impact players, in my opinion. But this is still a great group of kids for Deion Sanders in Colorado to make some noise in the Big 12. I think the big piece still is, regardless of these linemen that they got, and even the Jordan Seaton kid, the high school kid, right? I mean, you still got to play. You got to make sure you guys are gelling right and having the right chemistry, because I think that's a big key for a lineman is making sure that you fully trust the guy next to you. So, yeah, I have Ole Miss above Colorado. We'll find out more in the next coming days, guys, for the other teams and episodes. I'm very excited to do this. Hopefully, we improve on some things in this for the future, but I'm very, very excited. So I hope you guys enjoy this first episode. We'll drop another episode on Friday, but I'm going to try to do these every Tuesdays and Thursdays, ideally. The holiday on Monday kind of, made some things quirky or whatnot. So appreciate you guys for following along, but enjoy your guys' Wednesday. Peace.